Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a live pick a side reaction. We are here because there have been some allegations thrown out that when other teams win, we're not going to show up. I mean, my goodness. So we recorded an episode with Carson from Nurse today. You guys can go check that out. The episode we touched a little bit on the Pacers and Knicks, but for the most part, it's a lot of things that are evergreen that you could go back and listen to. We got into a Halliburton versus Brunson debate in that one as well. But we are here because the Indiana Pacers are headed to the NBA Finals. They beat the Knicks 4-2. Instant reaction, Dells, or you want me to go first?
You go first, man. This is your team. This is your series. Let's hear it.
Okay, number one, I was very disappointed in the Knicks tonight. I thought we came out and played really well to start the game in the first quarter. I thought it was awesome. Then we started playing terribly. Jalen Brunson never got going. Andrew Nembhard clearly frustrated him. If the referees were calling it fairly the entire night, there were moments where I think Brunson would have picked up a couple calls, like when he shoved Nembhard first and then Nembhard pushed him and Nembhard was called for the foul. Brunson head-butted Nembhard. Nembhard was frustrating Brunson all night long, and this was the worst that I've seen Brunson in a very long time. I felt like he could get no separation. He could get nothing easy whatsoever. He did not look good. Karl-Anthony Towns, another poor defensive effort, another poor defensive game. Didn't come out to play either. Was very inefficient from the field. I actually thought our role players did enough to kind of keep us in the game. And if our stars would have showed up, then maybe we could have pushed it to 7. But too many turnovers, terrible transition defense, missed free throws, terrible from the outside. Indiana took this. They deserved it. They played better. They were the better team this series. They were the better team this game. And it all goes back to the game one choke where you can't give a team as good as Indiana a win like that. You have to out execute them in those moments. And in that game, OG Anunoby was terrible down the stretch. Jalen Brunson wasn't able to keep the team composed. I thought by what was a very clutch fourth quarter showing from the Knicks all playoffs long, that type of resilience ran out against the Pacers in the fourth quarter. And they just completely took this series. They took this game. And now I'm looking at the last 4 times that the Knicks have been in the playoffs for the most part where they played the Pacers. You lose 4-2 in an ECF this year, 2025. Last year, 2024, you lose 4-3 in the second round. You blow a 2-0 series lead. Indiana advances to the conference finals. Then you go all the way back to the 2012-2013 season. We lose in 6. Carmelo Anthony and company not able to get the job done. And then all the way back to 2000, the last time the Knicks were in the ECF, we lost to Indiana. This has been a team that the Knicks simply can't get off their back. The Knicks, for whatever reason, over the last 4 times they played them in the playoffs, they just cannot beat them in the playoffs. And the Pacers are an exceptional team. I think that Halliburton deserves his flowers. I've been speaking high on him for years now, and it is bittersweet. But the good thing out of all this is that I think the respect on Halliburton is now at an all-time high where it's materialized. He has gone to the NBA Finals, and Pascal Siakam is one of the most underrated players in the league. He won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He had 330 balls in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think what it came down to is that not only were the Pacers role players better than the Knicks role players, but the Pacers 2 stars were better. Halliburton and Siakam were better than Cat and Brunson. And the only way the Knicks were going to win this series was if that was flipped. That's the only way, but it wasn't. And Halliburton and Siakam, they came out, they played better, and that's why they're headed to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, credit to the Pacers. If you're a Pacers fan, shout out to you. This is well-deserved. Even just going back to the start of this season when you're coming off an ECF appearance and everyone kind of throws it away because, you faced injured teams on your run there because, you only got there because Jalen Brunson goes down in Game 7. OG Anunoby was hurt in that series. And people just discrediting you every step along the way. So I think, number one, Pacers fans, soak this in, enjoy this, because this is awesome, right? This is a team that we're probably looked at as best, even the highest of people on Pacers fans. We're probably like looking at this team as like a dark horse. I'm sure if you're the most diehard, you thought, we really have a chance because of how unique our offense and our team is. But we'd be lying if we expected the Pacers to be able to go to the finals, let alone, handle New York 4-2. We were expecting them to be playing at Cleveland or playing at Boston, and they handled Cleveland in the second round. And of course, the Knicks were able to get past Boston, so they didn't have to see them. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just if you are a Pacers fan, just to enjoy this moment, because you have an awesome team right now. A team that isn't just headlined by a couple stars, although Siakam and Hallie get all of their praise. Andrew Nembhard tonight, the job he did on Jalen Brunson, just the second the Knicks are inbounding the ball on offense to the half court to, they get to the 3-point line. Nembhard is up in his grill every single second. And we saw it, Jalen Brunson got annoyed. He got pissed off. He was bothered by the constant pressure that was put on him throughout this game. I thought Nembhard did a sensational job, especially in that second half, at least offensively. So the first half, I felt like he was just missing everything. He was getting wide open shot after wide open shot, was bricking a lot, but he was able to hit some clutch shots in that second half. But the defense was always there. Even when the offense was struggling, the defense was always there for him. And he was really the only one throughout this series that was able to contain Brunson in any light. They showed a graphic throughout this game that even against Aaron Nesmith, Brunson was shooting over 50% and go, across the line, whether it's Halliburton or Siakam, wherever else. Brunson was able to do whatever he wanted on anybody, really, except Andrew Nembhard in this series. So I think he deserves a big shout. Nesmith, Thomas Bryant in this game hit some incredibly clutch threes. Jarris Walker came in and gave some good minutes before he went down for an injury. But this Pacers team is awesome, man. I've been saying this really since the start of the playoffs. After last season, I thought this was a team that was on the up and up. But really after that first game against Milwaukee, I'm like, the Pacers should be looked at as like arguably the third best team in the East. We kind of tipped our hat to New York being like they're the third best team. But the Pacers were just one game worse in the regular season in terms of wins and losses. They were better against teams against 500. They were great against Boston in the ECF last year. So they felt like a team that was getting overlooked. And they go against Milwaukee, take care of business, go against Cleveland, take care of business, and of course, New York Knicks tonight. So I think it was well-deserved. I think they were the better team this series. And to talk about the Knicks, Charles Barkley, actually said it after the game today that you give away game one, and now all of a sudden you basically have to win 5 games, because game one you felt like you won, and now you got to go win 4 more. And winning 5 games against this Pacers team is just going to be incredibly difficult. The pace they're constantly playing with, the defensive tenacity and just effort that they give night in, night out. I know, like, personnel-wise, they don't have like this defensive anchor like a Rudy Gobert or anything like that, a Chet Holmgren that they're going to see in the finals, but they collectively play really hard on defense, and they're guarding 94 feet. So although they might not have the most elite of defenders, their effort really steps it up a notch. So all of the small things, all of the margins that you mentioned, Joel, I mean, just the fast break, after buckets, getting out in transition to be able to get, looks at the rim or drawing in help to find open 3-point shooters. It was constant tonight, where you saw in game 5, it was more New York doing that. New York was playing in that game 5 at MSG like our season's on the line. They got the win. And then in game 6, they just did not come with that same level of effort, especially to start the second half when the Pacers opened on a 9-0 run. New York made a nice comeback to cut the lead to, I think 6 or 7 points. But for the most part, in the second half, Indy controlled this game, controlled it to the final buzzer. And Halliburton in that fourth quarter really sealed it. Up until that point, he was hovered around like 10, 11 points. He didn't really make an impact on this game. I believe he started 1 for 7. But in that fourth quarter, he was able to get downhill. He was able to really pick on Cat in the pick and roll. Cat was playing a really deep drop. He was able to get into the paint, hit floater after floater. Of course, hit like the 40-point 3 to seal it with 40 or 50 seconds left in this game. It was a fun series. This is one of the better ECFs we've had in recent memory. Almost every game went down to the wire, really outside of these last 2. But those first 4 games were nothing short of electric. And I think New York has a big offseason ahead. You got a lot of decisions to make, because you built this team to beat Boston, and you beat Boston. Credit, hats off, you beat Boston. Next year, though, Boston's probably not really in contention. So how do you adjust this team? How do you change this team to not only be able to beat Boston, but also against some of the other top competition, not just in the East, but the West as well?
It's a big offseason because players that we thought we could rely on, you can't. I've always been talking about Cat being inconsistent, and that's kind of what this series was. There was moments where he was really good. There's moments where he was really bad. His defense is very hard to overcome, and when you have Brunson and Cat, it makes it even tougher. And when he's not contributing offensively and he's inefficient, it makes it even more glaring. But Josh Hart was the biggest black hole on the court, I
Oh
thought,
God,
tonight.
he had some terrible moments.
I thought he was so awful. I thought he was terrible. I thought his leash was way too long. I was frustrated with him the entire night whenever he was on the floor. I was frustrated with Deuce McBride. He took this really dumb three that was contested early in the shot clock. And I'm very disappointed in Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is obviously the mainstay, and he's going to be the guy that we build around. And we're gonna have to see, if moving on from Cat is the right decision. If that's how they're gonna pivot, we'll see. But I was very disappointed in Jalen Brunson tonight. I think Jalen Brunson tonight, it was one of those games where if you're on the side of I want my players, I want the lead engine of my offense to be more of a playmaker. This was one of the biggest glaring games for Brunson where his playmaking was awful. His decision making was awful. And when he is dribbling the shot clock out and he's not creating space and he's not taking over as a scorer, it looks really ugly because nobody else is getting going when he has the
Mhm.
ball. And I think throughout this series, it has been that way. But he has gotten going as a scorer, so it hasn't shown up. Halliburton was struggling, but he was still involving his teammates. And I think that's the big difference in those two kind of play styles, where I think Jalen Brunson, his play style, it gets his teammates out of rhythm. They don't touch the ball. They watch him go one on one. And if he doesn't have it going like he didn't tonight, it gets really ugly. I mean, how many he had 5 turnovers. He couldn't take care of the ball. And I mean, it's not even like the playmaking that he's asked to do is advanced. I think the playmaking is mostly off of like collapses and then he kicks it out. But any advanced reads or passes to make on a consistent basis, it's just that's not in his game.
Yeah, it shows it's incredibly hard to build a team when you know, or I should say, to succeed with that level of offense, where you have a guy like Jalen Brunson who is just going to be dribbling the ball for majority of possessions, is going to be looking for his shots in majority of possessions. You have to be like super, super, super elite, right? Like when you go back and just look at like NBA champions, like it's like Giannis level. It's not Jokic isn't really the same level, but a guy like Luka who went to the finals last year, James Harden, of course, in years past. You have to be at such a high level and so consistent. To Brunson's credit and to his defense, he's been that for basically this entire playoff run. Like he has been at that level. He has been efficient and has been able to get it done. But it also shows like the margin for error is so small, right? I think one of the biggest issues that I had in this game was just Karl-Anthony Towns was not aggressive looking for a shot. I know he had 19 field goal attempts and actually the most on the team today, but what we saw in game 5 when Cat was getting downhill and he was putting the ball on the floor, nobody could guard him. Nobody can guard him. And this game, you did not see that. You did not see Cat. Every once in a while, you saw it. And the times he did put the ball on the floor and attack the rim, he was able to finish. And he had some incredibly tough finishes. But you did not see it at the same consistent level that we saw in game 5 that really was able to get New York going and was generating consistent offense for them. But you're not wrong, Joel. I mean, 7 assists, 5 turnovers doesn't tell the entire story for Brunson, but tells a little bit of it, right? The decision making wasn't there. The offense as a whole just wasn't really flowing right, especially in that second half. The first half they were able to keep it close. It was a 4-point game going into halftime when both of your stars weren't playing at a high level. You survived one bad Brunson game this series, right? That was game 2, I believe, or game 3. He goes 6 for 18, 23 points. Again, not like the end of the world. They just put up 11, but an incredibly inefficient night for one of the most efficient players in the playoffs. And you still end up winning that game by 6. It's going to be hard to win multiple of those games. And you saw that tonight when he goes 8 for 18, 19 points, and the biggest game of the season. So I think you can't completely shake up the roster because I do think the bones is still pretty strong when it comes to guys like Brunson, OG Anunoby. I think Mikal Bridges has to be here. You just spent 5 first-round picks on him. Doesn't seem like a guy you're just going to move off right away. But some of those other pieces like Karl-Anthony Towns and his huge salary, can you flip that into a different star? And Mitchell Robinson, for as good as he is, and God, was he amazing this playoff run. This is also probably the highest his trade value has been in some years. And although he's super important to the Knicks, and we saw how great he was, not just as a defender, but as an offensive rebounder, he was changing quarters, he was changing games in this series and in the Boston series. But you also look at it like, if we want to capitalize on this is probably the best offseason to do it, where Mitch just showed a healthy playoff run that he was playing at an elite high-end level for his role. So those are the two players that I'm really looking at this offseason for New York. Can they capitalize on their trade value? And can they shake up this team to, try to withstand some of these games that if Brunson doesn't have it going, can we look for somebody else?
The Pacers earned this. I think their team is built of a lot of underrated players, with two of them leading the way in Halliburton and Siakam. One of the best benches, one of the best depths in the NBA. Andrew Nembhard was phenomenal. Miles Turner hit some big shots. I just think that if you're the Knicks, this is kind of like the perfect game you wanted, where the Pacers at first were struggling. Miles Turner gets into foul trouble. Aaron Nesmith gets into foul trouble. I mean, there is no reason why the Knicks shouldn't have won, but they just didn't play well, and that's why they didn't win. But all of the circumstances were there for them. Oh, Aaron Nesmith, the guy who's been doing the best job on Brunson, he's not in the game. But those bench minutes were crucial. Obi Toppin was great. Benedict Mathurin was aggressive. I think that's the least that I could say about him. And Pascal Siakam really carried their offense through droughts. But I guess the last thing I'll say is that I think Pascal Siakam, he really earned that ECF MVP. I thought it should have been Halliburton, just because I think he's a catalyst of the offense. And when you average 21-10 with one turnover a night, I think you probably deserve that. But Pascal Siakam had 330 balls in this series, and I thought he wasn't going to play as well as he played. I thought that OG Anunoby was going to do a great job on him and limit his impact in this series. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. Siakam got anything he wanted whenever he wanted. And those 3 games, he really dominated. And Tyrese Halliburton, he had his big flare-up games as well. And that's why the Pacers are advancing. I think it's going to be a good matchup between them and OKC.
Yeah.
We're probably going to make our predictions later on when we do a full podcast, but I think it's going to be a great matchup. And the best team in the Eastern Conference is representing the East. That's the Pacers. The Pacers have been the best team since January 1st. And I think,
Thunder.
whether it was the Knicks, they beat the Cavaliers, healthy. They have beaten them? I probably still think they could have pushed them to the brink. Had the Celtics beat the Knicks in the second round, I would have picked the Pacers to beat them. I just think the Pacers has something special about them this year, and they deserve to be in the NBA Finals.
The Thunder are minus 800 to win, or minus 750. So Vegas isn't giving them much of a chance, but shit, Boston was, I think, minus 900. Cavs were minus like 600. So we've seen some huge upsets, and I already know who my pick's going to be for the finals. I do think the Thunder are going to win, but if there's a team that came out of the East this year, as much as, of course, I would have picked Boston and thought they could win, absolutely. But in terms of just what offense can give OKC's defense the most challenge, or the biggest challenge, I should say, it does feel like Indiana. Like, not only did I pick Indiana to win, I think a Knicks OKC series would have been really ugly. Like, I think OKC could have really shut them down in terms of what they want to do. But Indiana, as much as they push the pace, as much as they're able to get out in transition, it's going to make things more difficult on OKC than maybe not to the Nuggets level, right? Because Jokic is just like a force that nobody can really mess with at this point. But it's going to be an offense you just haven't seen. So I do think the Thunder end up winning, but I'm excited that it's Indiana coming out of the Eastern Conference, because I do think they give them the best chance.
Looking at these super chats, Jay Greedo goes, Hallie 30-footer must have felt like a gunshot. That was the game. It was already trending towards that, but when he hit that shot, it was just like, this is getting as worse as it possibly could get. RJ the God goes, Dells, why did your C's have to lose to these bum Knicks? This should be y'all playing OKC in the finals, a finals that would feed families, I might say.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, it's easy to say in hindsight, but I mean, if you're telling me we're going into the finals with Jaylen Brown on a bad knee, Porzingis not being able to play, even if Tatum was healthy, like, it would have been an uphill battle.
RJ the God. There's a reason why that I don't know what team he roots for. Maybe he's a Celtics fan
I
as
think he's a
well.
Celtic fan.
I
Well, he
mean,
said your C's though. I don't know.
your
Maybe
your
not.
your season's over next year too, buddy. So you better watch
Why do you have to
yourself.
say that?
You would have lost in a conference finals too. Damon Lavender goes Thunder in 5.
Uh maybe. I
Jay
think they push a little
Clark.
further.
Yankees lose the World Series. Ravens lose to Buffalo, and now the Knicks hurt me again. I'll never experience happiness with this team. Done with sports until 2030. Yankees, Ravens, a Knicks fan.
Okay. They someone tweeted out, it was some data account that New York is the first city because the Yankees lost like 18-2 today. Like New York is the first city to have both their baseball and basketball team lose by like 14 plus on the same day or some just stupid stat.
So
Update
RJ
from
the
New York.
God is a Hawks fan. Even worse, man.
Hawks. Oh, brother.
Even worse. You're not
God
even in
bless
this tax
bless.
bracket, buddy. Not even in here.
Well, Rip said the Hawks are better than the Celtics next year, so maybe he's onto something.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for our live reaction. You guys can go and watch that full episode of the podcast that we just dropped with Carson from Nerd Sesh. Still a lot of things in there. I would say like 80% of the podcast still relevant, even though this East Conference Final Series is over. Most of it is relevant. So you guys go tune into that. And that's going to do it for us. We're just going to see you guys next time. I think probably Monday we'll record a podcast and we'll be back in the studio. We're close to the end of the playoffs. We'll be able to be in the studio and not doing a lot of reactions. I think for the most part, pretty consistent with the live reactions. I think we might have missed like 2 or 3 in the entire playoffs, but
yeah, we did
outside of that, we were pretty consistent the entire time. This dude talking comics says, I'm surprised Joel wasn't dunking again tonight. I mean, I gotta understand. I was here after the Pacers took a 2-0 lead in the series. I was here by myself. I don't know. You don't show up one time and it's like, oh, you're ducking. Like, what the hell? You guys don't know. Like, what if I was doing something? What if I had an emergency? What if I'm just saying.
This is your life, Joel. If you're not going live after every game, you're ducking.
I'm just saying. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that's gonna do it. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Make sure you guys like the stream and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And we'll see you guys next time.